Hey, so this is probably the most vulnerable post I will have ever made in the history of time. And for those of you who this little blue halo is already triggering you, I'm so sorry. But I'm gonna hopefully make you feel better, and I'm honestly having a weekly crash out. I need help from you as well. This is how much money I owe in student debt for my physician assistant degree. And before you go ahead and take out the phrase that is so commonly used, oh, but you knew how much you were taking out in the beginning. No, a lot of this has to do with interest alone.
Then why does it say I could be off as a person that has worked for multiple banks and trying to understand what's going on? It says $192,000 on the principal. That's what it says. Now, I could be off, but it says 192. How long ago did she become a physician assistant is what I'm trying to figure out. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously it looks like she has about, give or take, about $9,000 in interest that has been tacked onto this. And so basically what she's been saying is that a lot of what she's been paying is probably just interest, what she's been paying, because the initial part of a loan, whether you take out a house, whether you take out student loans, whether you take out a car, if you look at your statement and you look at what you're paying, and once you start to get the principal down, what you'll be paying in interest is significantly lower. But if the payments are still the same, then that means that the majority of the payments is going to be going towards the principal instead of the interest. The interest is front loaded because you're scheduling these payments out over a span of about 10 years, unless you're on an income-based repayment plan. If you're on an income-based repayment plan, then you're never going to actually dig into the principal, because the majority of what you're contributing is only towards the interest, but not even enough of the interest to lower the loan. So a lot of these people are physician assistants. They are educated. They've been in school for a long time. They got their degrees. They wasn't working while they was doing so. So they was basically living off of the student loan money, and they knew what they was doing. And now they don't want to hear our mouths when we say, hey, you got to pay your money back. You don't do that when it comes to the money that you take out from the bank for your mortgage. You don't do that for your cars, or you're going to get your car repossessed. You're going to get your home took and foreclosed on. People don't do this when it comes to the things that they actually, you don't do it with the loan shark, or you'll lose your mouth. They'll break your teeth. But they feel comfortable finessing taxpayers. Let's be clear. They're not finessing the federal government. The federal government is funded by us, the taxpayers, and we get money taken out of our paychecks regardless of whether we agree with it or not. And if we don't pay that, then guess what? They coming to take our stuff. It could even end up in jail depending on how you play it. So when I see people that sit here and tell us, listen, show us the whole thing, and then give us the full, maybe she's going to give us the full context. I'm definitely going to link back to the content creator. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Let's see what she got to say.
Accruing while I am in a hell of a limbo of what we like to call administrative forbearance, trying to get into the SAVE plan. So I worked with a student loan counselor after I graduated, and I was told to consolidate all of my Direct Plus grad student loans to be one loan so that I could apply to the SAVE repayment plan. Right as soon as I started and submitted my application was when all of the chaos happened in the courts, where they just can't get their head out of their ass and figure out what they're doing. And so I never actually got into the SAVE plan. And so I have been accruing interest at a 7% rate. I've not had to pay my monthly payment. My monthly payment has been $0 because...
And I want y'all to understand that 7% interest rate is annually, all right? It's annually. Whatever it is that the number is that you guys are looking at, that's an annual number, okay?
Of a previous tax return when I was making $0 income as a student, but still, this amount is a literal noose around my neck.
So for every $100,000, just put a $7,000 interest payment on it. That's how much you're paying every single year. But if you do $200,000, then guess what that's going to be? $14,000. So for every 100 is 7 annually. All right. So when you're making your payments, you got to take into consideration the interest. The more that you pay down the balance, right? Because everything is calculated based off of the principal and then the interest rate. The more you pay down the balance, the more that you're gonna pay into the principal if you're still paying the same amount over a period of time. Maybe I need to do a class and educate people.
And I don't think I will ever pay this off. I fear that I will not be able to ever own a home as someone still earning six figures salary.
So you make six figures, okay?
Let alone
So it
children.
looks like the investment paid off. You're making six figures. Got it.
I would love and aspire to have a
Probably
child
at least
someday,
150,
but
160.
this really, I don't want to say like makes me suicidal, but like it truly makes it really hard to get out of bed every morning. And I know I'm not alone. I know I don't even have it that bad, but I'm truly asking as a cry for help, like how you compartmentalize the stress of something like this, knowing that you'll never, ever get out of debt, because it would take an act of God to take this amount away.
So you stay with your parents, you move back in, or you get a roommate, and every single dime you cut back on the DoorDash, you cut back on the spending, hanging out, vacations, cut it out completely. Every single dime, every paycheck over the next 2 to 3 years goes towards this. You just look at it the same way as you was in school. Hey, listen, I can't have no fun right now. I'm grinding, I'm hustling, I'm going to get it, and every single paycheck got to go towards this. That's how you got to look at it. That's how you got to approach it. And then once you get free of it, you keep that same thing, and then you just start to invest, and that's how you start to triple your money and start to get that bag.
And people repay the principal loan multiple times over in situations like me, but they never get rid of their debt because of the system at hand. And that is what is so fucked about student loans for people in advanced degrees like doctor, nurse, anesthetist, nurse practitioner, physician assistant. What else can I think of? Any degree program that takes multiple loans and at least six figures to take out to go to these programs. And I did this to get a better life for myself, get a salary that actually amounted to something for my future family. And yet this is what happened. And a lot of it wasn't even
10% of people in the world,
the fault of my
5%.
own, because I had no way of predicting that this would happen. I had no way of knowing that SAVE would not be around in the future. PSLF is my only option. I do work at a 501c3, but even then, the payment is like pushing almost $1,000 a month, and that will soon become even unaffordable for.
That's the problem. That's how you got in this situation in the first place, is that you keep going based off of what the payment is going to be. Y'all have to stop going off of the payment and start going off of, how do I eat into this principle? You got to grind, you got to hustle, you got to cut back, you got to start making better decisions. I have already educated my daughter on everything banking related. Now, thank God she will never ever have to take out a student loan. That is not even an option. It wouldn't be an option if I didn't make the type of money that I make right now. However, I have educated her, and I have really given her the game on how loans work, how money works, why you shouldn't be taking out loans at all unless you are expanding a business that is already incredibly profitable. And that's a whole nother conversation. But a lot of these people are super educated, but they have no clue on how it is that they need to manage their student loans. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me that you can't look at that principal and then also look at the total balance and tell, or you can't calculate what 7% interest is on $100,000, $200,000 and be able to tell exactly what that looks like. But they're going to continue to let that. It's not going away. You can't file for bankruptcy. You can't get rid of it. You can't discharge it. You can't pawn it off on somebody else unless you get married, and it might be a simp that marry you before you start looking at finances. Don't do it, fellas. But let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to holler at y'all later. Peace.